Yvette, this is so appropriate because I feel like we spent so much time talking in fake living rooms.
I know, and here we are again in another beautiful
fake living room. I can't believe we got to. I've just been so excited to have you back on because, like, for basically 11 years.
Yeah.
We got to sit in a fake living room.
At least twice a season, at least, I would say.
Yeah.
Because I think I did the show maybe at least 20 times.
At least 20 times.
At least 20 times. So that's, Man. It's a legacy, baby. We got a legacy together.
I love it. Just sometimes I feel like did I dream that we did that?
I know.
For 11 years?
Live, too. Like, I was talking to my husband about it today. Like, live television is completely different than, I love it, too. I use everything. I learned from you, though. I've always said this. To this day, there are 3 people that are great on teleprompter. You, Tom Bergeron, and Nick Cannon. Those are the 3 people that I've seen work a teleprompter. Like, you make it sound like it's coming out of your brain, and it'll be like just a wall of.
It's literally one of the only things I'm trained to do.
You do it well, baby.
It's my only skill set. That's why people are like, "Hey, you worked on Walking Dead. What sort of apocalypse skills do you have?" And I'm like, "None really. But if you were out fighting your apocalypse and then you came and sat down on a couch, I could ask you questions about it.
Questions.
But that's really about the length of
it's good. You always make it small, but it's really an important skill that everyone doesn't have, and you do it better than most. So I literally would be on set just watching you like read the copy, like, how is he doing it?
That's funny because I was watching you like, wow, Yvette took notes on this episode. Should I be taking notes? I'm kind of just like flying off the cuff.
We've talked about this before, though. Like, I want to say it definitively why I did that, because the first one, there wasn't a lot. Nobody really knew about the show in the beginning, right?
Right.
And didn't you have problems getting guests sometimes, or was like nobody knew what it was?
Well, it was in the very, very, very first season. So Walking Dead was 6 episodes initially, and it totally blew up.
Right.
And it started to become a thing very quickly, which doesn't always happen in television. But I guess maybe now with like binge watching and streaming. But at the time, it blew up pretty quickly. So then they did 6 episodes AMC, and then they picked up a full season, and then we came in season 2. And yes, explaining the show to people, because there were no talkback shows. There was Watch What Happens. So Andy Cohen had his show, but that was about Real Housewives.
Right.
And so the same company developed Talking Dead, and the experiment was, would people want to watch this for a scripted show? And so at the time, people just kind of gave it a lot of shit. They were like, well, this is dumb. Why would you have to? And it's like, well, they do it for sporting events. Right. They do it for reality. Why not for a drama-dense program where a lot of shit's going on?
Everyone has a watch.
So in the beginning, trying to convince people what it was. But then once it became successful, then it's like,
well, see, for me, the week that I watched the week before I was going on, because I was a big fan of Walking Dead. And then as I started taking notes, I'm like, I really enjoy getting into the minutia. But it began because I wanted to do a good job for you.
Well, not only did you do a great job, you really just became like a part of the family. Like I really, and I think I told you this a couple seasons in, like, you really should auction off these notebooks for charity, because
I still have them,
because they're like
relics.
And also, but just like they're like a diary, just like a moment in time.
I know.
And not only a moment in time in our lives, but an era of television that kind of doesn't exist anymore.
No, it doesn't.
Because, streaming really that show was on long enough that it was there for that period where it started to flip.
Yeah, when it flipped, yeah.
So it really was.
I'm thinking about it. Maybe I will put them out in some capacity at some point.
And for a show like that, obviously we had a lot of famous people on, but the important thing for the audience was just, does the guest, because people would pitch their famous clients, and then
do you watch the show?
That was the most important thing. If you didn't watch the show, it didn't work. It didn't matter how famous you were. You needed to care about the show.
And you couldn't cram it. Like, you had to, I mean, you could cram all the seasons and come in like season 4 and have watched all the others, but you could not pop in episode 7 of season 4 and do a good episode of Talking Dead if you don't know everything that came before.
Right.
There's no way.
The other thing that sort of evolved out of that was just how we watch television, because there's shows that you can binge, like fast food.
Yeah.
And then there's other shows that you really want to enjoy, like a fancy meal.
Yes.
And I think if Walking Dead had been bingeable right off the bat, I don't know if it would have had that, because that week-to-week conversation, that weekly ritual that everyone had
together.
Together.
But see, this is my theory about it. We're Gen X. We are long sufferers, right? No, right? You guys,
Our Gen X crudians.
Gen X, everybody's in there like, yes. Like, we had to wait for albums to come out every Tuesday. You know, when you bought your album, you couldn't listen to it until you got home to your record player or to your cassette player.
And you had to listen to the whole thing all
the way through. You listened to little scratch and all the way through. So we learned how to long for things. You know, we didn't have social media. So if you had a crush on somebody at school, you couldn't see him till you went back to school. So you would leave and walk home, you know, sad because you can't
have to
see
make
him.
the little thing.
Yeah, will I be together with
oh my
them?
gosh.
Yeah, we're gonna be in a house with 3 kids.
Yeah.
Like, all of this stuff that we did, longing for things and longing for people, that made waiting that week for your favorite shows. Oh, I can't. What they gonna do this week? We don't have that.
Do
anymore.
you like me? Check yes or no.
Yes, that's and you couldn't give it to him till you got to school the next day.
That's right.
There's something about that that's missing, and I think that's what we lost when we moved to streaming, because it was something about sharing it. Are you gonna watch this weekend? Oh, I can't wait. Call me when it's all gone.
Well, yeah, because there's so many fantastic shows, and that if you're trying to keep up and you watch a whole show in a weekend, then you're kind of maybe not talking about it by Tuesday
who you
or
gonna
Wednesday.
Talk to with it? You don't even know. They may not have watched it yet. You
Right.
know what I mean? You've watched the whole thing. They might be on episode 3. You've seen the whole thing. I miss the communal water cooler, you know, cafeteria at high school or college conversation about shows, and that's what Talking Dead gave us. We met by the water cooler and had the conversation.
I love these. I have a whole bit in my stand-up about water cooler moments and how I will explain that to my daughter, who's Gen Alpha.
Yeah.
It's like someday, well, in the old days when a show would air, what's that? Like a live stream you could only watch once? Ew, gross. You know, like those in-person experiences were so valuable because we would all watch and then go convene in a place and then celebrate together.
Yeah, it was good.
And then now, like, you know, post-pandemic, we're sort of like Zooms.
I don't feel like I see you. Maybe for Comic-Con, but even seeing you at Comic-Con is you can't really see the person because they're going into Hall H, you're coming out of Hall H. Everything is so timed and tight that all you can do is wave at your buddy and keep going.
Yeah, there's this like you're sort of swept away in the current of like, oh, hey, we should. I missed. I hope air hug. I missed
across. Yeah,
we used to call this Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
Wi-Fi. It's the wireless high five.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, now it's just gotten so easy to. We could Zooms, or you think you're catching up with people, but you're really just like on social media. You're just like, oh, I really haven't seen that person.
Yeah, I just saw what they posted. I saw you went to that vacation, but I don't know what happened on your vacation. I just saw pictures of your vacation. It's weird.
Yeah, it is weird because it can trick us into thinking that we're spending quality time with people, but when you really like unbox it, you're like, well, this wasn't really quality time. This was more like presentational information time.
Yep.
You're reminded when you actually go to lunch with someone or sit down with them.
People go to lunch? What's that?
It's a place where we have a shared food experience.
What?
Yep.
That sounds exciting.
That's right. So you forget until you actually do get to sit down with someone like, oh, right, this is where the
connection is. Yeah, where the real connection is. Yeah.
What year would you get married? Was that 2022?
2024.
2024.
Yeah, I'm coming up on 2 years in December.
Oh my God. How's it going?
It's so great. First of all, I got married late in life, as everyone now knows. I've talked about it ad nauseum. I was 53 when I got married, and I feel like the time has been redeemed because when I'm with my husband, I'm 17. And I've had people say to me, you look youthful. Time is turning back. I feel like the Lord has reclaimed the time. But besides that, what I've learned, one, I'm so glad I waited for him because it would not have worked with anybody else. Every other relationship that I was in, it's obvious why it didn't work because it was always supposed to be Tony. He's my best friend. Like, I just get to spend every day with my best friend, and I don't know how to say it. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. My high school boyfriend, Alan, I always shout him out. We're still friends. Alan said to me years ago, because Alan got married young. He was like in his 20s when he got married. And we stayed friends and we talk every year on our birthdays. And so it was one year, maybe in my mid-20s, late 20s, where I was like, well, where's the guy? Maybe 30s. Where is he? And Alan said to me at the time, he said, Yvette, you are such an interesting, particular chick that where other women may go out in the world and every day they'll meet 2 or 3 guys that they could, do life with. You're not that chick. Like, it's going to take a very particular kind of guy, and you'll know him when you see him. But it's not going to be just the run-of-the-mill guy you meet at Starbucks. It's going to be a specific guy. And he was absolutely right. It took a really Tony's very particular. He's a very specific guy, and he just fits with my weirdness. We're so weird together.
We're ready for things when we're ready for them. So you even if you had met him 20 years ago,
which I did.
You did?
Yeah, we met. This is the thing. We met when we were in our 20s, but he was married, and so we were just friends. We were platonic friends. But even then, meeting him as a platonic friend, I was like, what a nice man. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought, this is a really great guy. So it was almost like God saying, this is the prototype. I thought of him as the prototype. Like, this is the kind of guy I should choose. But really, God was like, no, this is your guy. It's just, he didn't say that, of course, but the idea was, this is your guy, and it's just going to take 25 years for your lives to align in a way where you can actually see if this could be something. And that's the way it played out. But he was always the one.
I feel like the first time you were on the podcast, I already knew that, like, oh, this is someone that I already feel like I'm old friends with. And then you came in, and I was really moved and floored because we had this very unexpected.
I remember this conversation.
This very unexpected, like, faith conversation.
Yeah.
And I was like, Yvette, it was like, tell me of this faith you speak of. And so
it was beautiful. Remember that? Because I remember you saying after that you did not know the conversation would go that way, but you were so happy it did. And that touched me. You know, that really touched me, that you were open to have the conversation, and that we were coming from two different places, but it was so lovely. Like, it was just like, let's discuss what this is and what it means to me and what it could mean to anyone who wants to give it a shot. And there's no pressure, no heaviness, you know? So it was really lovely.
Well, this is what human conversation should be, you know, which is just like sharing ideas. And even if we're not coming at the same place, understanding another person and maybe coming away, you know, it doesn't have to be so contentious. It doesn't have to be contentious. Yeah. I'm not anti-faith. I want to understand it more.
Exactly.
Because I honestly wish a lot of times
that's what you said.
Had more.
That's what you said. Where are you now? Have we talked about this?
I'm more, yeah. So I think I'm in this place where I think I'm trying to explore more of that.
Yeah.
Especially from the standpoint of, you know, being sober for 20 I don't know, 3 or 4 years, 3 years. And
your dad now?
And I'm a dad now.
Of life and all that.
And so it can mean whatever it means to you. For some people, if it means like there's this omnipotent being on a cloud who looks over us, that's fine.
Right.
But it can also just mean like releasing, letting go. And for people who are so like, I need everything to be so empirical and I need to X, Y, Z. Even if it's not that you think the universe is going to get your back, maybe it's that you have faith in yourself and you know that you're going to have you're going to get through whatever it is, that you've survived 100% of the things that you've been through, and that you're going to be okay. So wherever, it's just, to me, it's about the letting go.
Right.
And I really want to believe that the universe has my back. You know, I love that.
Well, I mean, this is what's funny about it. Belief or not, it's proven. It's been proven. Has your life been great? Not all of it.
Sure, it's life.
But are you surviving everything that's coming your way? And the answer to that is yes. So that means something has your back. Something is steering you in the direction you need to go in to make sure you're okay, even if it steers you toward a lesson. If on the other side of that lesson, you're better, or life is better, or someone is better, it's still good. You know what I mean? And so that's the way that's what faith is to me. Faith is the understanding that I'm going to have my teeth kicked in, because that's life, but I'm going to survive it. Right? I've said this all the time. There is one thing that's going to take each of us out. Exactly one thing.
Yeah.
We are going to survive everything until that one thing. So I refuse to live my life scared of that one thing. I refuse to allow everything in my mind to become that one thing. It's one thing. And when it comes, it will come and it'll take me out of here. Until then, I'm going to be fine. So that's what I remind myself of, and that's where my faith resides now. I know that I'm going to be okay.
You're right. I mean, your path is dictated by what you notice and how you perceive things.
Right.
So even to hear you say, but I'm going to be okay, it's like, okay, that's the takeaway.
Yeah.
Because if you are able to condition yourself to perceive things as some type of gift, no matter what they are, isn't that kind of the secret? You're going to be okay because that's how you're taking away from it?
Isn't it true, though? Like, if you say you want to buy a red Hyundai, right? You're going to see red Hyundais everywhere you go, because that's your brain is like, oh, that's what we want. That's what we're choosing. So if you wake up every day and decide that somebody's out to get you or life is unfair, guess what? Your brain goes, okay. So, but if you wake up every day and go, I'm going to be okay, no matter what comes my way, I'm going to be okay, then that's what comes into your life. And I know that to be true. I know that to be true more than anything. And I've decided I am not going to live in torment. I'm not going to let anyone torment me, and I'm also not going to let me torment me.
Yeah, that especially, and it works both ways too, because if you say like, red Hyundai, but then if you tell someone, don't think about a red Hyundai, then
you're still going to see red Hyundai.
So the same thing is that if you live in fear, and if you live kind of trapped in I don't want this to happen, and I don't want this, then that's maybe also, even though on some level you feel like you're preparing for whatever the tragedy is, you're really just kind of looking toward it anyway.
Yeah.
And it's
torment.
Yeah.
It's borrowed torment. And the other thing I want to say
Did you say borrowed torment?
Borrowed torment.
Ah, that's a great term.
It's from tomorrow. You're taking it from next week, tomorrow, somebody else's hand, pocket. I don't want it.
Someone said it, quote to me once, that it was like, it'll be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end. Yeah,
it's not the end. There's one of my favorite scriptures, Jeremiah 29:11, and in it God says, "I know the thoughts I think toward you, thoughts to give you a future and an expected end. No thoughts to harm you." When he thinks of us, and this is me in my faith bag, when he thinks of us, he thinks of good things. He thinks of opportunities. He thinks of beautiful baby girls. That's what he thinks of when he thinks of us. So that means if he's thinking good things for me, then I should be thinking good things for me. And he has an expected end, which means if I'm suffering, that ain't the good end. That ain't where it's going to end for me. So that means this is going to be tough, and I'm going to ride this wave. And then on the other side, the good stuff's going to come back, because I know that he has an expected good end for me and for you and for you and for you and for you and for you.
But I also know that there is responsibility
absolutely
on our heads
yep.
to be able to, and it's very difficult sometimes, to see or perceive things or find out like what the takeaway is that's constructive,
right?
That, rather than like, oh man, this always happens to me, it's
yeah,
like,
but see what you just said though. If you say, oh man, this always happens to me, guess what?
That's what you're going to see.
It's going to always happen to you.
That's right.
Because your brain is always trying to make you happy.
And you're going to filter out all the stuff that actually was good.
Happens. You could be driving on the freeway. One person cuts you off. It's the worst ride ever. Meanwhile, there's 3 people that let you in. There's somebody that had a cute bumper sticker that you liked. Somebody waved at you when you drove by. We don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
But the one person that cut us off has decided that my commute was trash.
Well, that guy was an asshole.
He was an asshole.
Why is he didn't even
but
signal?
Guess what?
Didn't even signal.
Yeah, but you know what? He didn't went off on the 10. He's gone. Why are you still holding on to that dude? He's on his way somewhere.
We should go ask him what his problem
just
was.
See what I mean? You can.
Hey, what's the
you
why?
Can. Or you can send him on his way. Thank God he's no longer a part of my life. That single-serving friend has left. Or single-serving villain is left, and now I'm going to focus on the rest of this commute, which is great. Got good music playing. The accident has cleared. The road is clean. The sun is shining. I'm ready to go.
For people who like, if they really need to see things in terms of numbers, like if you think of your time like a currency, it's like, okay, how many seconds in a day, how many minutes in a day, and then you really just kind of at the end of your day parse out and go, okay, the guy that cut me off, who clearly was a dick, he was way wrong, why? And you're like, okay, well, it was really just like a minute or that chunk of currency.
24 hours of a day.
And then you kind of categorize the other bits of currency in a day. What other things could I see about this day that were positive? And then you realize, like, it doesn't have to be a 0 or 100% score. It can still net positively.
Absolutely.
And I say this also to hear myself say it. I'm not preaching at people. Like, I constantly need to remind myself of this,
Yeah, same. I mean, this is not, I have not made it to the top of the mountain. I am climbing every single day, but I've just decided I'm not going to put this heavy pack as I'm climbing.
Right.
I can't. I got to be free to climb, and it's going to be arduous and all the things, but I'm going to keep climbing. I'm a completist too. Like, I want to see how this ends. Like, this has been such an interesting ride from birth to now.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to see how this plays out. Even if it's rough sometimes. And it is. Life is tough, right? But I'm not going to be tough and angry and hateful and nasty. I'm going to continue to hold on to my joy and believe that things are going to get better, because they always have gotten better. A couple steps back, a couple steps forward, 5 steps back, 5. It is what it is. It's the dance. And I'm going to dance until the Lord calls me home.
Can I ask you a crazy question?
Absolutely.
This is so not totally out of left field.
Chris. Do it.
How do you perceive God?
Ooh,
when you think of, like, is it a feeling? Is it a general sort of
That's a good question.
formless being? Is it do you is there like do you humanize it? Like, what when
You're
you
so
picture
funny.
it?
God
Is it
to
an
me,
energy?
God is energy. God is a warm hug. That's the best way I can describe it. Like I tell people all the time, I'm 5'2", right? And I'm from East Cleveland, so I'm pretty tough. But I have no fear walking anywhere in the world at night by myself. I know it sounds crazy. I will literally walk anywhere by myself. I feel surrounded. I feel protected on all sides. I feel like I'm walking with an army of angels everywhere I go. And that's what it feels like. It feels like protection. It feels like a warm hug. It feels like home. I can personalize it and say he or she, but God is just the air I breathe. It's the sky being a beautiful blue. It's the rain. It's a conversation with a good friend. God is just the source for me. It all flows through that source. And it's the same way when you're getting tucked in by your mom or your dad when you're a kid. And even if it's raining outside, you know it's going to be okay. Thunder and lightning, but mom and dad just tucked you in and kissed you on the forehead. That's what God feels like to me. It's a warm hug, a kiss on the forehead, and I got you, kid. You're all right. That's what it feels like.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
You just made me you just made me kind of misty because Dimity's still at the age where,
where you
know,
tuck
we
her
get
in.
we get to do that at night and we read stories and she's always angling for like one more story.
Yeah.
And so
And there's nothing you wouldn't do for her.
absolutely.
There's nothing that you wouldn't provide for her. If she's afraid, you're there. If she's hungry, you're there. That's the God feeling. It's how you feel as a dad. It's how your dad felt about you. It's how your mom feels about you. It's how you love your wife. It's how you love your baby, how your baby loves you back. That's it. It's the source. Love is the source. God is love.
So I think a lot of people who grew up, because I went to Catholic school and, you know, my mom's Italian Catholic. And so for a lot of people who maybe grew up with this construct of like the old man and the tunic and the beard, you know, it's like trying to get that out of the way, because I even remember early on in sobriety where they were like, just release it to God. And I was like, oh, that's not really,
Right, yeah.
do I need to be religious? And it took years of sobriety and maturity. I was like, oh, no, they just mean release it. Release it to whatever that is for you. It could be an old man with a beard on a cloud. It could be energy. It could be just this universal love. It could be like an infinite intelligence, whatever it is. Just, it's not about you.
No.
And you are not in control of it. And isn't that great?
Isn't that
that
great?
you don't have to shoulder
I
everything.
Gotta think about it. And this is the other thing I think has done us a disservice. I think religion has done us a disservice. And people forget that religion is human beings deciding how we should experience God. They got their little rules and their traditions. And some of it is helpful. And if it vibes with what you need in your life, God bless. I have a spiritual relationship with God. Me and God and Jesus is my dude. We thicker than thieves. But it's not a kind of thing, because what I always say to people who have been hurt by religion is that when they ask Jesus, who came to knock out all the old law, he came to create the new way we're going to do things, right? They said, well, what is the most important commandment? Because, you know, we got these lists. Don't you do this, don't do this. What's the most important ones? Love God, love yourself, and love your neighbor as yourself. Because if you love God, yourself, and other people, you're not going to lie, you're not going to cheat, you're not going to kill, you're not going to steal somebody's husband or wife. You're going to, because you love them. If I love you, I don't want to hurt you, right? And then there's also something Christ said. He said there's no condemnation in Christ. So everybody doing this and listing all the things you're doing and why you're losing, we're not supposed to do that. It's God's job to judge us on that day and decide whether what we did was worthy of the people he made us to be. That's his job. I am ill-equipped to tell you that you shouldn't be doing. I got to work on what I got to work on. There's also something in the Bible that says, take the plank of wood out of your eye before you fiddle with the splinter in someone else's eye, which is him telling you, you got a lot to work on yourself.
Well, yeah, there's a whole plank of wood in your eye.
Plank of
How'd
wood.
it get there? What happened?
So where do I have space to go, well, Chris, I really think that you should not.
And then I'd be like, Yvette, there's a huge plank of wood in your eye. Are you okay?
He's designed it so we would spend all that busy work and the you dirty rat stuff.
Yeah.
Take it here. What did Michael say? Man in the mirror? He and Saida Garrett and Glenn Ballard, that amazing song. Deal with the man or the woman in the mirror. Start there.
I also think that when I'm sitting across from you in person, having a conversation, and my goal is to connect with you and understand you and, love you as a friend and get to know you better. It's just so like, so much communication is just so kind of disposable now. But when you sit down with someone, I always find that the most lasting joyful experiences I have are, obviously as a parent and my family, and when I spend actual time with my
people,
real friends, not texting with them, not posting, like tagging them in a post, but like spending a day or just taking the time because those are the moments where we're present and we're connected. And this is what we were supposed to. And it's like, I love talking to you about this because there's so many things that I still want to understand. Yeah. And even if there are things that I don't fully grasp, like, I don't know if my brain sees it that way, it still makes me appreciate you and understand, like, but that actually leads to this other perspective shift that I didn't expect. And I feel like this is what we're supposed to do as people. We're supposed to sit across each other
but this is the journey. Like, each of us has a story and a life that we've led, and it's important to share the story. Yeah. There's also something else that I love in the Bible, where it says, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there also. So everyone acts as if you have to be in a church to have an experience with God. And that is not what the Bible says. You and I are having church right now because we're together. More than 2 or 3 are gathered, and we're having a conversation about his goodness and his love and how he's watching out for us. And everyone that hears this conversation may not believe. They may not believe yet. They may never believe. But it's important to have the conversation about how much we all are loved. No matter who you call him, what you call him, he loves you, and he wants the best for you, and he wants you to love each other.
Do you have like a daily practice? Like, if it's not too personal, do you like, because sometimes it helps to like write things down, to like, here's what I am grateful for today. Or do you have whether you're willing to share like a daily meditation practice, or like, I just go outside and I look,
I wish I did. I don't. It was so funny. I did a podcast about caregiving with other caregivers recently, and the leader of the podcast was like, "So, what do you do? Like, do you have any boundary things that you set up to make sure?" And she was it was such a joyous question, and I had to destroy her. I was like, "Absolutely not. I don't have any self-care. I have no boundaries. I have nothing. I am my husband looks at me all the time. If someone calls me and they're in need, I say yes, because like me being here with you, this is my week off." No. I'm not saying this to make you feel bad, but it's like, I see week off is in my amazing assistant, Kaylin, will put a week off. She'll randomly put a week off, and I go through and fill the week off, because if someone needs me, I'm one of those people. I believe what Mr. Rogers said about look for the helpers, and if you can be one of the helpers.
You're a carer. You're 100% a carer.
Absolutely.
And so my wife is the same way, very much a carer. Yeah. I mean, I thought I was until I met my wife. Yeah. I'm like, no, she's definitely, she's such a carer. Yeah. And my wife constantly has to remind me, I'll, complain about something. I go, I don't know, I'm really stressed about this thing. And she'll go, well, just see how it turns out. And a couple of days later, I'm like, well, actually, it was that. And she goes, why? And she literally makes me recite out loud. I go, do I have to say it? And she was like, yeah. Because things have a way of working out. And I'm like, are you happy? And she's like,
yeah. It's interesting that I have now confirmed the same thing Lydia tells you.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you know that it's an assignment.
No, she's going to be able to go home and go like, Yvette brought up this really great point that things have a way of working out. She's going to be like, kidding me right now? This is
confirmation. And this is the thing, too. When the Lord wants you to learn something, universe, whatever you call it, wants you to learn something, it never comes once. It keeps coming. It's a confirming word. You just got a confirming word. So your wife planted it, and I came in and put a little fertilizer, a little water on it. That is something you're supposed to hold on to, that things will get better. They always get better. So, and also stress kills. So this tightness, blood pressure, cholesterol, heart attack, stroke, you don't need it. So don't do that to yourself. It's going to be, one thing is going to take you out.
Yeah.
It's not going to be traffic or some executive at a company. It's not going to be that. That's not going to be the thing that takes you out of here. So you got to.
It's not going to be that my last social media post got low engagement.
No.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure.
It ain't that.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because it feels like. Are you sure?
I'm telling you, don't. You better fight against torment. I'm not going to be tormented. Y'all can have it.
I should have stressed more. I really wish I had stressed more. I wish I had, like I have a friend who met a guy on a plane, older, he was in his 70s, and he was like, turned out he had run some big company. And then his wife passed away, and he just had this whole like, what have I done?
I missed all that time with
how
her.
many, I think he just kind of realized like what was so important. How many millions of dollars did I need? And so he just decided he was just going to travel and try to experience, the world with whatever time he had left. And we're so quick to want to value ourselves with these kind of like fake metrics of
money and house.
I joke about like post engagement or whatever, but material things, external validation, a number that's like, is this the number that's going to make me feel enough? And it's like, no, probably not. No. It's these moments of joy and presence where you're with friends, family, your children, your parents.
Yep.
I know this sounds so like old manish of me, but like walking through a park, just like noticing Lydia's very much like, let's notice the trees and let's go stand in the grass
let's stay present is what she's saying, because all you have is this moment. We can talk about the vacation we're going to take or where we're going to. All we have is right now. Honestly, in this room, we don't know what's going on the street. Armageddon could be outside and we just don't realize it yet.
Yeah.
All we have is right now. And I'm intending to be present with you in this moment and enjoy what I can of my friend, because we've already been proven we don't see each other but every 2-3 years. So I got to enjoy the time that I have with you now. And then, when I leave here and go back home, I'll enjoy whatever that is. But it is really about slowing yourself down and choosing to be present.
For me, it's peaceful.
It's existing. It's just
existing and contentment and just being a part of the world.
Yeah, not being in battle with anybody. Like, I don't have any enemies. You know what I mean? Like, I literally live my life open and loving. And if someone has a problem with me, 9 times out of 10, it's because the problem began somewhere with them, because I don't seek out trouble with anybody. And I don't stay in even friend. Like, this is my rule. If you don't wish me well and I don't wish you well, then we can't be tight. And there's some people that do friendship with people that don't really F with them like that. Like, they don't really, it's a frenemy, or some people call it monitoring spirits or whatever. If I am not super excited for you and your life and what's happening in your life, and if I cannot be a shoulder for you when life kicks your teeth in from my heart and soul, then we don't do close friendship. And that's okay. And I will wish you well over there, and you can wish me well from over there. I want to live a life where every time my phone rings, I'm excited. Even if it's a tough call, I'd rather have a tough call with this person, right? I try to have jobs and experiences. I only say yes to podcasts and these type of experiences if it's someone that I really want to talk to and I think I'm going to have a great time with. If I agree to moderate something, it's a show or a movie that I actually love or I'm excited about, I'm not going to phone in joy. I'm not fake. Like, that's one thing about me. Anyone that's met me, if you my people, you my people. If you're not my type of people, you're not my type of people. I can still work with you. I will still be respectful, but we know where we are.
You're a fantastic moderator, by the way.
Thank you.
I really love your work, and I am joyful for you, and I do get excited to see you do things because I root for you, and because it is a harder thing than I think people realize.
People don't realize,
because you really have to
tell them why it's hard, Chris Hardwick.
Well, it's hard.
Come on.
It's hard because you're working within a structure that has points that you need to hit.
You got to hit at certain times.
At certain times, and you have to wrap it all up in time, and you have to keep it moving and inject, just enough personality into it.
But it's not about you.
But it's not about you, so you can't fully get in front of it.
Right.
You have to just be a friendly traffic light, to just kind of keep it moving, but also complement it. And
it's so much.
And then just like by the end of it, my goal is always like, I want the
audience
fans who are there to leave happier, and I want the panelists to leave happier.
And the network or the studio.
And the network and the studio, yeah. And it just takes a little bit of time to do that. But when people say, how do you do that, or how do you host shows? It's like, first and foremost, you really have to love what you're doing. And so like any of the things and to hear you say that is like, yeah, she's absolutely right. I have to love the thing. People are like, do you really love Walking Dead? Yeah, I really do.
Really do.
Do you really love Doctor Who or any of these other panels? Yes, I wouldn't do it if I didn't.
You can't do it.
Because it wouldn't read.
You can't do it.
It would be at this point, if I really had.
We could phone it in if we had to, but it's not, but still. I would be able to tell if you didn't like it.
And I wouldn't do it if I didn't, because I wouldn't waste everyone's time. Now, especially as a dad, my time is exceptionally valuable because anything I do takes me away from my family. So like, it really better be worth it.
Yeah.
So I really better love it so that it's good for not just me, but for the fans and for the people who were involved, because they deserve that.
I am a cheerleader of people.
Same.
You know what I mean? Right. And I think this is what makes us great moderators, because we love to see people shine and we're so excited for them. And when I'm on a panel and it's a show that is now a hit, like maybe people didn't know about it, now it's a hit, to see that feeling that when they walk out, when I say their name and they walk out and the crowd goes crazy, like nothing makes me happier than being with them in that moment and going, everybody, look at my friends. Like that's such a...
Do you have a couple favorite, like in specific moments where you're like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm on the stage right now for this moment?
Ted Lasso. Anytime I'm with Ted Lasso. Because of you, the Walking Dead season 6 premiere at Madison Square Garden, because you were at a friend's wedding.
Yep.
And I got to host that. Thank you. I hope they're still married and happy. Yeah. But no, that experience, you've had lots of experiences like that, but I'd never, Madison Square Garden, like I could not believe I was there.
Yeah.
And then also, I got to host a panel for Severance. And Severance is such a deep, rich, layered show, and I wanted to do a good job. And so getting the call to get to moderate that panel, I was like, okay.
That's really cool.
That was a feather in my cap, because I wanted Severance so badly. So that was awesome.
And when you're in these moments, it's hard because your brain is in so many other places that you have to remind yourself to just step back and go, just be present for like a minute, just because this is a really, and then you can go back to like figuring out like how you're going to structure it and just like the flow of the show and everything.
Yeah, I had a moment. I'll mention one more. Palm Royale on Apple with Carol Burnett, Kristen Wiig.
Oh my God, of course.
So the finale for your consideration panel, Carol Burnett was there, sitting right next to me, and Carol Burnett is so huge in my life. Child of the 70s. I literally, that's the only time I can think of where I had an out-of-body experience, where there was a moment where I was supposed to read something and I just was like, and everyone's looking at me and I'm like, oh, that's me. Okay, yeah great. Because you just, those moments are so,
Did you get to talk to her?
I did. I got to take a picture with her and tell her how much I loved her. And I'd met her before. We did Hot in Cleveland on the same episode. Yeah. So I'd crossed paths with her before. But it's different when you get to give her flowers, like publicly give her flowers. And that was just, I'll pinch myself forever for that one.
That's why the moderation stuff is so fun, because like I'm such a fan.
I know, we're both fans.
And I probably come off really annoying because I am such a cheerleader for people and things. And it's like, because why wouldn't I be? Of course, you want me to look at this? I could tell you 10 negative things about it and 10 positive things about it, but this thing makes me happy. And I just really appreciate getting to have any proximity to it whatsoever.
That's what, if they knew how big of fans we are,
I feel like they know.
Really, how much we love stuff?
They probably know.
Yeah, we just really love stuff. And it's, I just did some things with the Muppets recently, and come on, man.
Oh, are we allowed to talk about that? Because I know what it was that you did.
Yeah, we can. It's out now.
Oh, they did open it.
It's out. Yeah.
So you're one of the sketches that plays while you're in line in the queue for the new Muppet ride. Someone showed me a screen cap of it. Oh, it might have been Jen. Was it you, Jen? It was Jen.
It was Jen.
So your friend Jen, who works on the production, who's great, and so she showed me this, and I was like, I really felt this flood of emotion because I knew
you knew what it meant,
how happy that would make you, and it's like, holy shit. If I'm being honest, I was a little jealous, but in a healthy way.
You could totally do that.
In a healthy way.
I will connect you with whoever you need to be connected. I'm telling you,
because you are a part of the Disney ride experience, and not just a Disney ride experience. The Muppets, like the Muppets.
I don't know that that's landed yet. Like I don't think that it's landed. Yeah, that and Sesame Street were my two as a child.
Oh, sure.
So neither of those have landed, that I got to do that. And that to me, Sesame Street even more so, because my thing was, you only get on Sesame Street if you've done a lot or you're a really good person, in my mind. And I dreamed, like, please let me do enough and to be a good enough person to be worthy of walking on Sesame Street someday. And so I'm done. Like, I don't know what else. That and the Muppets, I don't know what else I would ever, what could you give me?
It's really, I've gotten to work with Muppets before, and the first time it happens, it hits you on this level And when they start talking to you, you look in their eyes.
You're done. You're done.
You're just like I got to moderate a panel that Grover was on.
Stop. Just stop.
And then
stop
he was just like, oh, hey, Richard. And I'm like,
no. You're 4. You become 4 years old.
I couldn't talk.
You can't. It's so crazy how you fixate on the Muppet, and there's a whole person right there, but your mind just goes to Piggy or to Kermit or to Grover or to Gonzo.
What do you mean there's a person there, like their assistant?
There's people there.
What are you talking about?
But I will
Next to their feet?
I will say this, Chris. If you have a conversation with those puppeteers, you're going to have the best time of your life. They are, first of all, they work blue. They are very irreverent. That's the first thing. And second, they're the most funny, interesting, wonderful human beings on the planet.
Have you ever seen the outtakes? It was on the old Muppet movie DVD, digital versatile disc.
Yeah.
And it was outtakes of Jim and Frank. I'd say like I'm on a first name basis with them.
Frank Oz.
Frank Oz and Jim Henson. They were doing field tests with Kermit and Fozzie to just see like what it would be like to shoot with them in the real world.
Yeah.
And so they're in these various. This is on YouTube somewhere, and they just start riffing, and it's like
it's genius.
Fozzie says something like, "Oh, it's really great to be out here, like a bear in its natural habitat." And Kermit's like, "Yeah, Fozzie, you're not.
This is really good.
Not a real bear,
These are good.
That's vintage Kermit.
Good Muppet.
You're not a real bear." And he's like, "What are you talking about, Kermit?" He's like, "Well, how many bears have a magenta nose?" And they start laughing, and the puppets start shaking, and they're just like, you can feel the joy that they had for it.
Absolutely.
And again, this goes back to what we were talking about before. When you love what you're doing, when you care about what you're doing,
it's not work.
It's that intangible quality that makes it extra special, because no one watches any of the Muppet stuff and they're like, I don't think they wanted to be there.
No,
it's like they
are bent up and crunched up in the most uncomfortable positions you can imagine. Puppeteers deserve all the flowers. Every time I get a chance to talk about them.
Yes, because the cost of decades of puppeteering is their spines,
your body,
their muscles,
they
like
have one arm that's stronger than the other arm.
It is really
it's a lot.
I'm telling you, as a parent of a 4-year-old, where she likes to play, she loves to do puppets and voices and stuff. After like 2 minutes, you're like, she's. Your arm.
It's exercise.
It's like, how do you do this?
Exercise.
And they're down there, like looking at a monitor, folding themselves into a space
and
like
all
an
on
octopus.
top of each other. Yeah. It's serious.
It really is.
It's not a joke.
Some of our finest performers that we have in the business are puppeteers.
Absolutely.
When you're sort of doing the checklist, the bucket list, is it? What do you? Because I think when we start off, we have the checklist.
Mm-hmm.
If I do this, this, and this, and it always grows and changes. But for you, like, how do you see it now?
I think the only thing that's left on my list, because when I started, my list was one commercial, one sitcom. Not even as a series regular. I wanted to just pop in and be like, here's your coffee or something in a sitcom. And I was like, I made it. So I am so far beyond that now that I feel like even asking for more would be greedy. But if I had to pick what I would still love to do, I still would love to host a talk show. And I still would love to create a multicam sitcom.
Yeah.
Those are my last two that I'm like, and you see, my dreams are not lofty. It's not like I won an Oscar. I'm not. Relax, everybody. Like, I'll be happy with my, hosting a talk show and a sitcom.
And so how do you define success? Like, how would you say to yourself, it sounds like you already feel successful, which you should.
I felt successful when I booked that first commercial and that first sitcom. I was like, because I live a small life. Like, I'm not balling out of control. I mentioned Hyundai's one of our cars. We have a Hyundai and a Volvo, and I drive the Hyundai more than anything. I don't live a look at me life. I don't shop like crazy. And if I do shop, it's at like, it's stored at everything in there is like $50 or less. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm not that girl. And so I always wanted to live a life where I could make people laugh and make people happy, a life where I was able to earn enough to move into full-time philanthropy. And I'm grateful to say that I'm on the board of Donors Choose, the board of Motion Picture Television Fund, Governor's Board. I'm on the board of Emily's List. I'm on the board of SAG-AFTRA. I show up and work hard for all of my charities and my nonprofits. And I also lend my voice to Alzheimer's Association and Cancer Society and a lot of other places that I think really matter. I speak a lot in the caregiving space. So success for me is making enough money where that money can now be used to help others. And that's success. It's not 5 houses. It's not a yacht in the harbor. It's not $1 million or $1 billion. It is enough for me, and enough for me where there is overflow to bless others. And I've made it there. And I will continue to live below my means so that I can stay here. I don't want to have to do jobs that I don't want to do, and I don't want to have to pimp myself out because the mortgage is due.
Right.
So I live a small life so that I'm able to do good, and also so that I'm able to speak up about the things that matter and not care if something goes away. I live a small life so that if I need to speak up about something that matters and I lose a job, take it. I'm going to say what I need to say about what matters. I will always keep my integrity and make sure that I am on the right side of history. Always.
When you speak at other charities and you speak for caregivers and you speak for, you know, at Motion Picture Television Fund, and do you have advice for other people who are caregivers who maybe have those days where they wake up and they say, I don't know, you know, I don't know where I'm going to get the energy to get through this day.
That's every day. What I tell people all the time is caregiving is just love. It's just love. And so that means if you love someone, you want them to eat, you want them to be clean, you want them to have some music or entertainment that they enjoy, and you want them to feel like they matter. And that's all caregiving is. Now, on any given day, I can give 100% of that if I have it, or I can give 50% of that if I can have it. But 50% of love is still love, right? So in my mind, it may not be a steak, but it's oatmeal. And it still fills me up, right? And so this might be an oatmeal day. I might be able to give love at an oatmeal level today, but it's still going to sustain you, you know? So it's enough. And so I think what I tell every caregiver is that guilt is the enemy. You're going to always feel guilty, and it's never going to be beneficial. You can choose to do it with guilt, but it's not going to help you. I also try to remind people that if your caregiver could tell you, because my dad is nonverbal now, so he can't say thank you or whatever, but if he could say it, he would say, thank you so much. And I want them to know that you may not hear it, but know that if they were in their right mind or were able to, they would thank you for the love that you're giving them. And then also, it's okay to need to go in a room and scream into a pillow. I do it often. You know, you get it out. You scream, because it's not fair. It's not fair that your loved one is not well. It's not fair that you sacrificially have to give to make sure they're okay, but it's still worthwhile. And you don't have to love it every day. You just have to love them every day. And if you can do that, you're gonna be fine.
I think that's an interesting point about guilt is the enemy, because it can be very hard.
Always.
Because it can really get in the way.
It doesn't benefit anyone. Again, I refuse to be in torment. So I have to say to myself, you know, like even right now, like I used to do this thing where anytime I was away from, and I'm sure you do this with your baby, anytime I'm away from my dad, it's like, anytime I'm working, it's time away from my dad. And I had to remind myself, your dad would want you to have a job. So you have to sometimes go out of town. He would want you to be fulfilled and live a beautiful life. He wouldn't want you to sacrifice everything that would bring you joy for his benefit. He wouldn't want that. And that's the other thing I remind caregivers, like if they, in their right mind, and if they could say it to you, they would say, please take the vacation. Please go sit by the beach and look at the water. If that's what would make you happy, I'll be here tomorrow. It's okay. They don't want that for us. So we have to remind ourselves of that when they can't remind us.
Well, especially because you need to replenish.
You better.
Because that allows you to be a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
And it's important to have people in your life to remind you to do that. Because again, within myself, I am going to sacrificially deplete myself always.
Right.
So I have good friends in my life that will go, have you laid down lately? Do you want some tea? My husband makes sure that I'm okay. So it's important to have people in your life that will love you at the same level you love others. Yeah. So you're caring for them, and then somebody's caring for you. Because the thing is, it doesn't have to come from the same direction it goes out in. That's life. I think sometimes we live in bitterness because we've done something for someone, and we think that that person should give it back. No. Right. You just need to get it back. It probably won't come from that direction, because that person was depleted when they came to you. What they pouring from? They came to you because they didn't have nothing. So you're going to pour into them, and now you're depleted, and somebody else that has something is now going to pour into you, and then someone else has something that's going to pour into them. And that's why we just each give what we can in the direction we can give it.
Now, I apologize for the selfish question that I'm about to ask you,
Ooh, I
but
love
you've
a
known me
selfish
for a
question.
really
Come on,
long
give it to
time.
me.
Do I seem any more like,
Yes.
let it go
Yes, you
and
do,
faithful,
honey.
or
You
like,
do,
because you
honey.
have the perspective that I don't have, and I just don't know.
You just seem like a little open, little bit of love, squishy love. You're so much more open to what life has for you. You know what I mean? And you're not as rigid with yourself.
I just think I'm more okay now with not knowing everything
You
and
used
just
to be
feeling.
Chris used to be so this. You were so tight, because you wanted to do so much. You got time is running out. And now you're like it's literally this.
You know what's really crazy is that I'm more relaxed now when time really is running out. You know what I mean? Like
It really is, Chris. It really is, Chris. We're in the final innings, brother. This is it, baby. This is it. I say all the time, like there's more runway behind me than in front of me, but I like that.
Yeah.
Like I like the idea that I have run this race. And I now can just relax now.
Yeah.
I don't have to prove anything to anybody anymore. Like I'll be 55 in August. I love that I'll be 55 in August because I've now reached the age where my nosiness and my old womanness fits. You know what I mean? I'll tell people, you gonna wear that outside? You know you need to zip up your jacket. Now go and zip up your jacket. I can say that now at 55 and they'll go, all right, the old lady wants me to zip up the jacket.
Whatever, at least you're talking to other people. I'll stand in the grocery store and be like, $4.89 for Life cereal. Was it always that? Or whatever it is. And I'll go, oh, who am I talking to? I saw these there was an impulse buy in the cereal rack in the cereal aisle that had these little plastic cereal bowls that had a straw attached. I'm like, this is it's just me? Okay. All right, I'm having a moment. That's all right. Don't you
love it? Don't you love your older version? I love my older version.
I do, but it also my brain is sort of recognized that, we might be getting close to the final stretch. So it's like, must download all information onto the world. So that's why if someone comes up and you're like, yeah, we really love it here in this town. Now, I was born in Kentucky, but then we moved to Memphis. And then I went to 3 different high schools. And then I went to UCLA, I studied philosophy. And they're like, great, can I take your order? It's like, and then you realize like, oh man, I just olded them.
I know,
because
but isn't it great? Like I love this season of my life. Like I don't have anything to prove. Like I'm here today. I don't have Spanx on. Like I don't care. I don't care what my butt looks like. What my butt looks like behind me is not my business. Like I literally am just existing, and it's great because I spent so many years wanting to achieve, and I realized what I really wanted to achieve was peace, and I got it now.
So, do you feel like you wish you had figured that out like 20 years ago, or do you feel like no, because the journey of going through that made me appreciate where I am now?
It's hard to say because honestly, if I were to think back, I never was someone that really played it the way people said I was supposed to play it. I never did. Like I never, I was the natural haired Black woman before people were doing that. And I was like, I just think my hair is great. I don't care that I was the fluffier girl when you weren't supposed to be fluffier. I didn't care. This is who I am. You know what I mean? I've always just been me. And I've been okay if people don't vibe with it. Like I don't expect everybody to like who I am, but I always did. And I never felt like I needed to be anything other than myself. And so now at 50, almost 55, I understand that this is the better way to do it. Because I'm not trying to be anybody else.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I love me and I love you. So we're good.
I love you too.
You know what I mean? We're good.
I so appreciate that you're here. I love that we got to experience this like surreal 11-year, 10, 11-year journey
together,
of this like bizarre anomaly in television of just like being a part of close to a phenomenon.
We built it though, like everybody's doing it now.
Well, listen, it was bound to happen sooner. You know what I mean? Like
I think we did it. I think we built it.
I will say of the however long this was, 55, 54 minutes, the currency of this time has been very valuable to me today. So I really appreciate that you were here.
Thank you.
And I hope I see you before a couple of years.
Before the baby graduates, I'd love to see you.
You want to come to the
graduation? Yeah, I want to see you.
Oh my God! By the time she graduates, oh, did your grandpa come to graduation? No, that's my
baby,
older white-haired dad. Hey. Why is life cereal more expensive? Yvette Nicole Brown.
Hey, we did it!
Let's do another after show together.
So I would love it.